So next, let's talk about Aphrodite, the golden goddess of love. Aphrodite is probably the goddess you have seen the most in society. She was really represented in the entertainment world, in Hollywood and film, in music and TV, and it really gives this impression that the modern Aphrodite left Olympus for Hollywood. That was mentioned in Goddess Within, really resonated. And it's really not about her physical beauty and her charm, but this kind of modern misperception like shifted it that way. But it's really a lot deeper than that, a lot more sacred. And Aphrodite really represents liberal love of the body, sexual pleasure, and believe me, so much of her true purpose and form has just been completely misrepresented and hurt basically by the patriarchy. So she, out of all the goddesses, I think, has struggled the most with just being viewed very objective purposes, and the whole culture of Puritanism, Puritanism really diminished her gifts and made her gifts bad, made them made a lot of confusion, because saying that sex is like dirty and wrong, but then also like putting her in that position. And so she really has these gifts of beauty and sexuality and sensuous presence, and she is really blessed the culture with arts, sculpture, poetry, and music. So she's very creative and artistic and loves the finer things, loves fine dresses, jewelry, just always like looking and feeling her best, and really rules like the fashion world, glamour, cosmetics, and define herself in that world like without even trying. Like it's just the natural step for her to be in acting, can even be in like media, like reporters, and she's very extroverted, like she's very interested in people, and this is kind of what gets her into her maturity. Like from a young age, she's among adults, she's very charming and like has warmth and relatability to all types of people, and she is defined by Eros, which Carl Jung talked about being that relatedness quality of connection. And so relationships are essential to the Aphrodite woman, and sexuality is part of that relatedness and connectedness. And she's really values exchanging people in that way, and she leads human connection. And she lives by her heart as well, and it gets her in a lot of trouble because she will let that lead in places where it doesn't make sense. So a wound for Aphrodite is going after men that are married and not available, or maybe older men. But she actually learns a lot in these kind of affairs. She learns, especially if she gets with an older man, like he teaches her a lot about the ways of the world, or in that worlds that she's in, and she really isn't driven by career aspirations, I should say. She's more like interested in like connecting to people. So that's like her purpose. It's not like she's driven like Athena by her career, or marriage like Hera, or even in being a mother like Demeter. Like those things don't really call to her. If she does do them, she may not do them in like a typical traditional way. And she really sees life as an adventure and is drawn to things that are sophisticated. And she likes to be around these kinds of people. And she is more about like the luxury experience. Like she's not like Artemis. She doesn't want to be camping or like, no, she likes to just be present in her body. And she also has this loneliness to her as well, of like being not fitting in one place or another. And she may feel like men only want her for her looks. That's another kind of wound that she has, or like a status kind of symbol. And so she's like insecure about her real talents and her real worth in that sense. And women are jealous of her. So she has like this really big wound with female, like she only has like a few female friends, and she feels more drawn to men for her intimate relationships. And she really has these gifts that are supposed to set her apart in this way. Like she gets this passport, the book called it, I really like that, to this other world, like this glamour world that she didn't grow up in. So she kind of is like that girl next door. Like she has like that humble kind of energy. And Marilyn Monroe is a perfect example of Aphrodite. Like she was not Marilyn Monroe until she became that version of herself when she entered Hollywood. So she can really lean on those traits to bring her into those worlds. It's really just being herself, being authentic, relatable, and she might not fit into like a typical work environment. Like that doesn't seem to work out, and she's very like outwardly gorgeous. Like it just like can be distracting in a sense. And as I mentioned, her issues are being the other woman. She learns a lot in these affairs, like they're like spiritual journeys, and she sees the person that she has the affair with in a different way, so they are like reflected in her. Like she sees them in a higher regard, so there's like a healing that goes on. And she can be involved with like a publicly seen man in power, maybe a creative person too, and she'll like be his muse in a sense. Like she impacts his sense of self, his capacity for intimacy. So she's drawn to these kind of powerful people, and I think Marilyn Monroe is a great example of that as well. So she was involved with a lot of people in Hollywood and the Kennedys. Yeah, so she makes them feel powerful, and in return, like she gets status and security and entry into these places where she can shine. And believe me, so much of her powers have been repressed by the patriarchy, and she's really like comfortable in her sexuality, and that's very expansive, and that doesn't jive with what the patriarchy is about. And so she can be seen as like almost not being taken seriously, needs like a passionate relationship, and she, in that sense, she doesn't really always go for monogamy, and she really can show up when you're falling in love, and you feel like something has taken over you and you can't think straight. That is Aphrodite. That's like Cupid kind of energy that she brings, and it's that sense of eros that I talked about that takes over. And it's like this untamed, like passionate energy. And so if you can allow that to come through, you can embody Aphrodite. And she is at her fullest when she's doing that and not being shamed or repressed. So be sure to watch the goddess overview video linked here, so you'll know all the goddesses to learn about, because each one is complementary to each other. So take the quiz linked in this description to find out which goddess you are currently strongest in, And then you'll also find out which goddess is your complementary goddess to help balance out these stronger energies of the dominant goddess. And you'll also receive a beautiful guide to connecting to your goddess, as well as a Pinterest aesthetic board with visuals, rituals, and really the symbols that evoke this goddess so you can connect with her, feel her support, feel her energy help you move through these challenging transitions that you experience. And be sure to stay tuned for the other goddesses coming out, and then you can learn about each goddess in a single video. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in my next video.